Hello and welcome back to Mr. Caro Plays FM24. Today we're going to look at the first in our new series of teams to manage in FM24 while you wait for FM25. So the first team we're going to focus more in depth on, and then we did make a video of kind of 5 teams to manage, but in this we're going to go into more depth about different teams, teams that I believe are a bit of a challenge, however, still remain fun. The first of which is Málaga. Now, if we look at Malaga's history, if we go to their club info and we go to history, you'll notice that they haven't necessarily won a lot of titles. However, in the last 10 to 15 years, they have been predominantly in the Spanish First Division. They're a team that I think Ruud van Nistelrooy ended his career at, and I think maybe a couple of other players like him, came in a kind of good period of the club's history, if you like, and then obviously by the look of it they slowly declined, and then in this year they are in the Spanish Third Division. Now obviously, being that they are in the Spanish Third Division, however, they have had a relevant amount of success, or a decent amount of success in recent years. Their reputation is still pretty high. Now there are other teams in this league which also carry high reputation, however there are a lot of teams that don't. So if we go to Ibiza and we look at their general, you'll see that theirs is 2.5, which isn't too far off ours, to be honest, but still lower than ours. If we pick out another team, and if this is a bit, I don't know what these teams are, so they could fail badly. But yeah, you see there are 2 stars. So it's quite a varied level of reputation in this Spanish Third Division. What seems to happen in Spain, for example, Deportivo La Coruña had a very similar fate. They get into financial issues, and then the teams start to drop down the divisions much more rapidly, perhaps, than they would in some countries. Now, if we look at our tactic option in here, obviously going to give you some preferred tactics in there. With me, I always like to play a bit of possession football, so I'm going to go tiki-taka in there. I have played as this team in a couple of seasons, so I'm a little bit ahead of and do understand a few of the players, which is going to help me to give you some advice. Within that, I always personally go for an advanced forward, and I have used this. However, a pressing forward for this team would also work quite well. Then if we look kind of throughout, the team's a little bit complicated for maybe this level of football, but we have got some decent players in the team. So you've got a couple of options in there. Automatically, you see that maybe a right back or right wing back would kind of be a good option, although this guy here, Punga, has got some good reputation as well, so depending on the position that you're trying to play him in. So there's some options within that. This guy is also quite young. I've got him in the Spanish First Division on my game, still chips in with a couple of games here and there. If we go to our centre-backs, I always play kind of a ball-playing centre-back. Got a couple of good players here. Nelson Monte, I think he's in his mid-20s, I believe. Yeah, 27, on a good wage. One thing you will notice about Málaga is a lot of their players have perhaps have higher wage demands than perhaps you'd expect from this division. That is due to obviously the fact that they had recently got relegated, or recent enough at least. Then another good player in there, Jude. I'm probably butchering the names very badly there, but he is a pretty good player, good age, good stats, good physical stats, good passing technique, kind of your Spanish mold when you want to use a passing team. In goalkeeper position, now this is a position that I thought I have improved on. However, there are some good players who will get you through a couple of seasons. An older goalkeeper, Herrero, there, he will get you through a couple of seasons, I would imagine. Then you've got Lopez, who's like a 3 or 4 star potential, not a lot in current ability. And then if we go to our left back, now this is a position, again, I would try and add to if it was me, because you've got Garcia, who's 29. He's not going to get you far in the game. And Danny Sanchez, who's 23, he's got a little bit more scope. However, his stats are not the greatest, but again, he will get you through the early divisions, because I would expect for most people, they would assume that they're going to get promoted pretty quick with Málaga. That would be my expectation. We'll tap into that in a little while and look why that is the case and how that's predicted. Now, if we go to our defensive midfield, again, another position I would perhaps try and add to if it was me. You got a couple of half-decent players, but no one fantastic within here. This is probably the best out of the bunch, although he is injured when the game starts, and I think it's a semi to long-term injury. So maybe you go for that option in there, and then your attacking playmaker. This guy is fantastic. He has got many seasons in him. I play him as a Mazzala, but an attacking attacking playmaker would be a good option as well. Now, I would definitely get rid of roaming playmaker if it was me. I don't think that they've got the capability in this division, at least the players that we've got to make that work, and maybe do a kind of central midfielder in there and play around a little bit with what you've got. And this dude is definitely someone who can play within that. I've used him for a few seasons. I think I sold him now, but he got me quite far. And I think I actually made a couple of million off him in the end as well. And then obviously with your inside forward, this is a position that again is a little bit bare, but there are a couple of options in here. But it is a little bit bare. But nevertheless, we've got a couple of options to put in. So we'll do that in the inside forward there, and winger option on the right. There's, again, I actually sold this guy to a team in Italy. I can't remember exactly. He came up, I think I sold him for 7 million, I think it was in the end. Visit came up, something in that realm. He definitely wanted to leave. He definitely didn't want to stay. There was nothing I could do to get him to stay, so I just sold him to the highest bidder I could, and that's not a bad option within that, especially given I believe you don't end up with any transfer money or wages, but we'll look at that in a second. And then we've got our advanced forward, and this guy is a machine, both in all the divisions to get me to the top division and also in the first division. He has scored ample amount of goals from advanced forward. He can also do it as a pressing forward as well. So there's a pretty good option in there. Again, I would probably look to reinforce your attacking options in there, because other than that guy there is not really a great deal of striking options. You've got this guy who can play as a winger. He's a bit old. But actually, he's not old, but he hasn't got a lot of potential, so I'd probably look to try and sell him. Dione is probably the best other striker that you're going to have. Even then, he's not really an advanced forward necessarily, but he will grab some goals for you. David Ferreira is definitely a player I would look to get rid of. He's on a high wage. He's 35 years old. He's got a lot of experience, however, not necessarily going to add to it. I believe this guy may be the same. He's not terrible, but he's playing attacking. He can definitely be a backup perhaps, but I wouldn't look to keep him for very long. And I think other than that, we haven't got a lot of central defense support either. So maybe look to try and add a few players. That would be my recommendation. If you go to your development, and the good thing about Malaga is they have a lot of players in the B team, and even the under-19s. Definitely Antonio Cardell. I threw him straight into the first team. He did fantastically for me, and there's a couple of other fantastic options in there as well. This guy, I think he's randomly Irish, playing in Malaga. He is a great kind of midfielder, maybe even a winger could even potentially do that, although he would drastically have to work on his crossing to make that work. But at 16, it's not impossible. Definitely has a lot of attributes that would dictate that he would be at least a pacey player, Mario Muzella, like it's advertising in there. Now, if we look at the finances, as predicted, we have a little bit of original budget, no wages, as you can see if we go into our transfer section. In fact, they're saying you've got minus, so maybe some money does need to be made. That's what I certainly did. And if we go to projection, because of the wages again, that is quite drastic. However, it is fair to say if you can get this team to the first division, the TV money is pretty good in Spain, although not fantastic, but you get it in one big chunk, which is nice, or at least in a big chunk and then progressively through the season, which is a nice way to deliver that money. Your projected profits or money will go up substantially once you get there. Now, pretty much that is all I would have to say at this point, certainly for this team. Maybe look to develop, like I say, develop the development squad greatly. Even go into your C team. There are some fantastic players within this, even if you're just making a little bit money back, but try and maybe loan those out. You can loan players pretty young. I think as young as 16 in Spain, so maybe take advantage of that. Other than that, have a great time. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you and goodbye.